And that's pretty well straightforward there. Leach well, make sure we have leach well. If you have leach well, get that. The one I had with just 3 leach wells just this month. I had to measure. It was like 85 feet from the neighbor's well. It was 103 feet from another neighbor's well. So measure all those wells in that area so you know if there's a nuisance or something that we need to follow up on. Any questions on any of the revisions?
On the drawings, do you recommend only drawing what you see? Because I see a lot of them where they're just pretty much copying the installation.
As long as that's what it is. Yeah, I mean, sometimes you can't guarantee that what you see on the back of those 70, 60, 1960 permits is actually what you're going to see out there. So if you see that, that's fine. But in some of those 1960 permits, they're really poor drawings. I'd prefer if you guys drew something a little bit neater. That way we have at least a little bit better record. I mean, if they're an old permit that don't have really good records, I would prefer you guys not to say see attached drawing or something like that. Try to redraw it a little bit neater, more to scale of what's actually out there. That way we're not always just issuing these new, if somebody inspects it 3 years later, we don't have to reissue that old septic permit. We'll issue it, but we'll probably also attach the revised drawing or newly drawn drawing that we can actually, us or another service provider can actually use. That actually looks a lot better than those old, octagon houses they have and a tank and leach lines going like this. And try to find, that's why if you have records, you should be able to find those leach lines out there. Sometimes you can see them by they're settling, probing. I know a lot of us, we spend a lot of time probing. We spend a lot of time hurting our backs, hurting our shoulders probing. It's the job. Probe. Any other questions?
On an inspection that's done by a non-installer.
Okay.
So
like just a regular service provider.
Right.
Okay.
You've got 2 or 3 items that are wrong.
Okay.
Someone that, like ourselves, to go out there and then fix the problems. Mm-hmm. Okay. Do you want us to report that to you, or is that up to the original inspector to go out to make sure the repairs were done?
If we had like a box that needed fixed or something like that.
Box and a water softener.
Okay. Water softener, like I said, if I ever get any report on that, that's here nor there. But the box is the big thing. Doesn't require a permit, so we're not involved with that. But we would, if you as an installer or whatever could send us a copy of the invoice, with the address, what you did, the date you did it, replace the distribution box, replace the diversion box, installed elbow, give us that info, because those are, if we require that box to be, if it's collapsing or inhibiting flow, that's required, we will follow up on that. Just because it's a nuisance. It's a component of the system that's not functioning like it's designed. If it's just a deteriorated one and I recommend it be replaced, but the homeowner or the buyer wants it replaced, you can submit that to me. I'll put it in our database as being replaced and who replaced it, but it's satisfactory in our database and we would never follow up on it. So if it's required, yes, definitely we want a copy of something. If it's not required, just recommend it because it's deteriorated, but it gets replaced, and we have that happen. I just changed that in the database. I put it under the comment of that last inspection, so-and-so replace that and see attached a copy of it. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, because some bank-owned homes are like that. They want a follow-up inspection, but I didn't do the original.
Yeah,
I mean, so I'm not gonna okay the system when I had.
Some banks may just want something from me, especially if it's required, saying that it was done. That's when you can just send me an invoice. That's sufficient for me. I mean, we don't need to spend time or money, mileage, to go out to check if a box is in place. If a service provider wants to do that, and send me a little jot of a fax, saying, hey, I went out and so-and-so, verified that a new box was replaced. That's fine. That way we have something on record that, yes, it was done. Any questions on service providers pertaining to that? Nope. Any other questions on the evaluation? All right, we're going to talk about this more in the December meeting, but Mound Property Transfer Inspection Requirements. These are on our website. They have been on our website. These are the requirements that have been around, before I started. This is Sewage Treatment System Property Transfer Inspection Guidelines. These have been on our website. This states what we want to see as far as leach wells, as far as mounded systems, and that's what's pertaining to this. This has been on our website as far as mounded systems, what's the general overall minimum inspection criteria for mounded systems. You know, look for leakages, look for sufficient soil cover, you know, animal burrows, make sure all that, you know, the vegetation, make sure it's not eroded, all other stuff. And you flip the page to the next page, refer to dosing and lift station of this document, but it talks about measuring squirt height or the head height. So does everybody know what that is? I don't know if people know what the squirt height of a mound type system are. When the system goes in, it's designed, and hopefully we have records of the initial system, pristine lines, not sludged up. They're squirt heights. And this is what these tubes are. These are just examples of what we have. A couple different versions. I mean, this one actually has a ball in it. So as that water, there's little inspection ports at the end of the mound. They have little thread caps on them. We'll unscrew those, and then you slide this on there, and just screw it on. That's where you will check you will be able to see that water level inside these pipes. This one's a little bit harder to see. It's the PEX tubing. You'd almost have to add dye to the line. You can actually, if you unscrew that line, you can squirt some dye in the bottom of that cap, then screw this on. Most of the time, I mean, we have fittings on them for different sizes. Most of the time, you know, people are using the same sizes. So you can do whatever. You want to use these. But we're going to go over this a little bit more. But the squirt heights, I know some people have done some mound inspections. Some people have done them without the squirt heights. I've sent it back to them to get them redone. So this is what you will see on squirt heights. You'll get a distance here. You'll get 20 inches, 30 inches. You know, you'll see that, and then we'll be able to compare that to our initial readings with the pristine pipe just newly installed. That way we can see how much sludge it is. Homeowners have to take some responsibility as far as mound maintenance. That's all in all of our stuff. If you see a line, and you know, if you do squirt heights and it hasn't been cleaned recently, this tube will probably be mostly black. It'll be grayish black. It'll have so much stuff floating in it because that stuff's going to be sitting in the bottom of that line. Homeowners should clean those out, scour those out. Those instructions are. We'll go over all that in our next meeting. But these are just some tools. If you guys are doing mounds, make sure you do what the regulations say. And this is one of the major ones: is getting these squirt heights. All right.
You take a measurement from each end, or from
yes, you'll take a measure from. It'll be from. Usually there's like a swing on it, and you take the measurement, and then you'll measure this, and then we'll be able to compare that to what we have in-house or what another inspector had done, 2 years prior. But we're going to see a lot more mound inspections. LPP is the same thing. You're going to have these. Sometimes they're a little bit more difficult because you just don't have one straight pipe. LPP is going to have several different lines. So it's going to take a lot longer. Make sure you price your stuff accordingly. I mean, these things are going to take a little bit longer than just your regular system, especially LPP, where you go through a zone valve. You have to switch through those zones. It's going to take you a lot longer, twice as long at least, to do an inspection.
You're probably going to want at least 2 of those if you're going to create your own, at least for both ends. Sometimes there's a few that have 4, but most of them have 2. So you want at least 2 of those. And again, you're accustomed to looking for bleeding and things like that, but this tells what's going on inside of the mound that you can't see otherwise. So that's why we feel it's pretty important to be taking those readings. It tells what kind of abuse is going on inside of the system and so forth. The cheaper version, I don't know, someone gave us this. The cheaper version is buying a piece of PEX and some bushings and you're in business. That, I can't even tell you what that costs.
Yeah. I initially thought that Todd made these, but he
did
not make these. But yeah, if you guys want to come and take a look at them afterward, that's fine. It just has a little, it has a little air tube in the end. But these slide off, so you'll want to clean these before you leave the site. They'll have gunk and all kinds of stuff. So yeah, you'll have, and like you said, December meeting we actually took a video of an inspection. It actually had 4 of these. So we had 2 here, and we could actually cut off the mound. Those valves. You shut which side you want, so you can only do half the mound, or you can do all 4 of them. But that's what. Yeah. So come up and take a look at them after the meeting if you need to get them beforehand. If not, we'll have them up here in December again. Did you want to do that now or go? Todd's going to talk a little bit. So I know we have some systems that have flouts in them. Does everybody know what a flout is? Anybody doesn't know what a flout is? A flout is usually takes almost the place of a pump. If we have enough fall across the property, we can install one of these, and it doses the system. It actually has head pressure, which we're going to see here, and some issues with that pressure. But flouts are used. We've used, I don't know how many we've used probably.
At least over a dozen. I can't.
Okay, so we've used over 12 of these are in Stark County now, and may see more, may not, depends on how they want to be installed. But it's a non-mechanical. It doesn't require electric. It's just all gravity.
I did want to just briefly mention what you're going to see in the new 2014 draft code. The vertical separation distance. If you've been around in the business for any period of time, in 2007, vertical separation distance was a new animal that we hadn't heard of before, except for separation to bedrock and groundwater. If you remember, the old code always said 4 foot off bedrock, 4 foot off groundwater. That's all we had. Well, in 2007, they had vertical separation distance went in, and then at that time, we had 2 feet of vertical separation. That means unsaturated soil until you get to some soil limiting condition. And most of the times in this county, and probably throughout the state, it's seasonal perched water table. So that is currently in this county is 24 inches. However, the state code will change that, and we'll probably, why does that matter? Because when it changes, it'll become less, very likely in the new code. And when it becomes less, systems go in the ground deeper and systems get cheaper. That's what happens when that happens. So that was actually one of the biggest sticky points in the law from 2007 was that vertical separation distance. And we expect that that'll change, and the result of that will be, at least in this county, systems will probably become less complicated and less expensive. So we'll see where those numbers end up at the end of the day. In some counties that you may work in that never established one, when that code was rescinded, remember mid-2007 code was rescinded, their prices are probably going to go up. Because we've been doing this for some time, they'll probably go down. Another thing that's being looked at, and I think I've mentioned this in the past, is statewide bonding. I think probably all of us in this room are probably in favor of that. You get one bond, and you can present that to every county you register in. So I know right now you guys are chasing down bond after bond for all the things that you're registered in. Now you still will have to have separate bonds if you're a hauler, you're an installer, and you're a service provider. But you only have one of those that you can present throughout the state. That should come to be. Gray water recycling is in there, and I'm only hitting like 4 high points here. Gray water recycling is in there, but I don't really think it's ever going to happen, at least the way it's written right now. Your system stays to full size. You can really only gray water recycle in the dry parts of the year, and it consists of basically a piece of pipe that goes around a flower bed. So unless you're a green individual, you have a green customer, I don't see it happening, because the benefit to gray water recycling is reducing your system size and reducing your cost. That's not the way the code is written. So it will be there, but to a very, very limited degree. I did want to mention this because we do have some service providers in the room. The old 07 code stated that if you were going to service an aerobic treatment device, you had to have the credentials from the manufacturer. Many of us remember that, and many of you went out and sought that. Some of you were able to get it, and some of you weren't. What I'm seeing right now in the code is that they're opening up certain other credentials for you to be able to service these devices that doesn't require you to get manufacturer training. Now that is a hot button issue with the manufacturers, the distributors, and then the state wanting to allow, capable people of servicing those devices. So we'll see where that all ends up. I know that's kind of in flux right now, but that may be good news for some people who have struggled to try to get a manufacturer to certify you to allow them to service their devices. So we're just kind of holding off and seeing where that goes when that happens.